This is Russell Dobular sitting in for Jimmy Dore, who will be in Denver on May 11th. Go to jimmydore.com for tickets. Let's take a look at what not normal people think, actors. So coming out of that scene, as soon as I saw this sketch that you dropped not long after October 7th, not only did it ring true then, it rings very true now, and it particularly stands out because you have so many actors cannot virtue signal enough about how they feel about Drag Time Story Hour. But you have probably the most explosive political issue of the last decade, and they are fucking silent about it. And you picked up on that right at the beginning. So we'll look at a clip from this.
It's been a few days now. I still haven't weighed in on Israel-Palestine. I honestly don't know who to post. Usually it's easy. BLM, bang. Ukraine, bang. COVID, bang. Hey, did you do your Israel-Palestine post yet? I've never missed a stand. So who'd you go with? I look at my phone, I see a lot of Republicans supporting Israel. So I go, maybe stay away from that. Then I see a lot of the people we've been calling Nazis supporting Palestine. But then get this, the people that we've been calling them Nazis with are happy Israel's getting attacked. Riddle me that. But there really is no easy answer here. Did you do your Israel-Palestine post yet? What does your manager think of that? Oh, you don't have representation right now? Obviously, I was at the front lines of getting mad at Kanye West when he was doing the anti-Semitism stuff. Everyone was thanking me for standing up for the Jewish community. So naturally, I'm seeing this happen. I go, okay, we're back with the Jews again. I see Kylie Jenner post for Israel. I think, okay, the word's in. Then boom, she's getting killed on every angle, so it's not Israel. So I start doing a bit more research. I'm seeing queers for Palestine. And generally, you want to be on the side of the queers. If you look at the things, you're not going to get in trouble if you go with what the queers are saying. Then Mia Khalifa, who we obviously support, is posting with the queers. And she's getting fired from her job. The whole reason I'm posting this is to get in better standing with my job. And by the way, I started to see that your silence is noted post popping up, so we're running out of fucking time here.
Okay, now, if anything, what you're identifying there has only gotten worse in the intervening months. So why do you think these actors who are so eager to tell you what they think about all of these other issues, George Floyd, they've never seen a flag they don't want to put in their bio, but they're completely silent on this issue?
I mean, the simple answer is people move in their self-interest, but there's so many parts that were fun. I don't know if you guys saw recently, like, I mean, obviously you have, but all the protests and the universities or whatever, but I really want to do a sketch or like a news piece that's like, the ADL finally found a protest they don't like, where it's like the first, it's like, there's like, you know, we think college is about protesting as long as it's, you know, protests other than Palestine, obviously, but every other, like, there's Jonathan Greenblatt has not found a cause he hasn't supported except for this one in his entire time being at the ADL.
Ryan,
right?
Did you see, because I love that headline of Mia Khalifa fired from, like, she'll never work in porn again.
Well, you did that great one of Hamas praising her. Yeah.
yeah.
All the boys are very inspired by your revolutionary work.
Yeah, this one, like, I mean, Kurt said it sort of killed the whole like progressive thing. I mean, it did to some degree because it forced everyone to put skin in the game for the first time, right? Like,
right.
There was so many things where, you know, supporting it, there's zero skin in the game. There's zero cost to you, especially in, you know, certain social circles. So, well, this is the first time where actually having to stand by your beliefs might have some repercussions, and people don't like it.
Yeah, you saw Rosie O'Donnell. Actually, this comedy video, Rosie O'Donnell basically made a video saying that in so many words, like, because we were gonna make fun of it on one of Kyle's things, and it took. I was like, why is she like miserable like this? And she's telling some fucking allegory about her kids and some other kid, and you can tell it's about like Israel and Gaza without having to mention them, and like it's all can't we get along? And it's basically this, like she didn't know what to do, but she knows she has
find
to be
people on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, I think actors have stayed away from this for the exact same reason that they were uniquely susceptible to projecting wokeness. They're so vulnerable and they're so powerless that whatever you tell them is the side to be on.
It's called an MK Ultra whore.
Right. And what you captured in that sketch is there's no right side to be on here. Whatever side you pick it could cost you work somewhere else.
So Ryan, which side did you end up picking?
I think if I was to be honest about it, I think if you're in the industry, probably the right move was you almost stay silent about it and then you probably post like a little bit of what Rosie O'Donnell did. If you're outside the industry, if you're left wing, I think they go pretty hard for Palestine. I think there's probably right wing people that went hard for Palestine, that maybe there's some repercussions of that.
Well, we saw what happened with Candace Owens.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, yeah. So where did you come down on this?
Me personally?
Yeah.
This is actually, so you guys know more about this than me, but I would say that where I kind of was like, and this is not the biggest, like, you know, I don't know as much as you guys, I would say, but I would say, I was kind of like looking at it, I'm like, it makes sense to me that America shouldn't fund it. That seems to be like in line with my principles. Like, it probably makes sense that Israel needs to chill. Like, that's out of control. As far as like what the solution will be, I've kind of thought about it a lot, and I don't really know. It kind of feels, unfortunately, like it's just going to kind of keep going like this. Then eventually it'll dip down. People will stop talking about it, and then it'll kind of happen again in 3 years. Like, that's what it starts to feel like to me. But I don't know if there's like a crazy path to success here. Maybe the idea of, like, you know, the diplomacy behind the scenes, kind of telling Israel to stop, leads somewhere positive. I don't know. Where are you at?
What is your final solution?
What's the final solution?
Do you think the chosen people sounds very similar to the master race?
Chosen people sounds, oh, of course, yeah. But they are the chosen people. You do agree with that, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, okay. So what
do you think? I mean, just like a button on that, but I kind of, that's where I think one of the most complicated parts when I think about it is when people say they're pro-Palestine, that means like 7 different things for 7 different people. For some people, that means, you know, right to return. They should be able to like essentially take the original land back. For some people, that means a ceasefire. For some people, that kind of means that America should stop funding it. For some people, like, I think for a lot of different groups, it means a lot of different things. So it's, I was kind of think,
go ahead.
It was kind of making me laugh. Like, in the last little while, there'd be like a lot of terms, like when they originally started saying like, are you a feminist? And it would just be like, do you not think men and women are equal? And then like slowly it kind of like, it meant a lot of different things. It kind of felt like if you're like, yeah, I'm a Rangers fan, and they go in, well, just so you know, if you're a Rangers fan, we support the Islanders now. Like, they kind of added all this, like, it kind of felt like a lot of definitions were happening that rapidly. And I feel like a lot of these definitions of, you know, what Zionist means for some people seems to mean a lot of different things, what pro-Palestine means. So that, I think that's the part of it that maybe even makes it like more complicated for your average person to kind of parse out.
You know, the thing is, I didn't really, although I've covered it for at least 10 years, I didn't really know much about Israel-Palestine conflict until October 10th. And now I'm really radical in it. I don't really think Israel has a right to exist. It's all, they are an apartheid state. Every human rights organization says they are. They do target civilians. They're doing things that the Nazis did. And Zionism is basically Nazism right now. And so that's pretty radical. And I'll never get represented in Hollywood again because of that, which is okay. And so that's where I'm coming down on it. And, you know, a lot of people say to me, they go, well, Jimmy, you know, Hamas doesn't support the LGBTQ. What do you think about that? I'm like, well, again, obviously we should slaughter their children then.
Well, I mean, Dave, I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked to Dave about it, but like, he has a pretty good point where, you know, even when people are like, we're using, you know, they're really good at using hostages as citizens, but it's like, well, if someone had a bunch of had a hostage right now, would you be able to, he was like, oh, he has a bunch of hostages in a bank. Like, that's not an excuse to go blow up the bank. So, I mean, no one would be fine with that. So, I mean, it's hard to argue with a lot of what you say. And I think as this moves further down the line, I think it's becoming like more apparent that how do you argue with a lot of that stuff?
Well, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why a lot of these words have a lot of different meanings is not by accident, right? I feel like there is a lot of obfuscation about that, right?
Oh, right.
Well, Zionism means different things to different people. Zionism, in the context of how it actually is realized, means the Jews have a right to establish a state and treat that state as their own, as an ethno state. Exactly. And I'm a Jew. I'm not a Zionist. I don't believe we need an ethno state to survive as a people.
You don't feel persecuted in New York?
I feel totally safe in New York, and I'm in the Goy section of New York. I'm way upstate, and I still feel safe, right? But
it's hard. It's hard to argue for an ethno state.
If we needed a state, if you want to make the argument that we needed a state, Germany was the country that did the crime. They were split in 4 parts after World War II. Boom. There's where you put your Jewish ethno state, right? Go. Like the idea that a bunch of brown Arabs who had nothing to do with Nazi Germany had to get up and leave so that we can have our ethno state because we were wronged by the Nazis. Yeah, I mean, that's just a horrifically racist idea, and I think it is an illegitimate state to that extent. Now, when it comes to modern day, like, can you go back and erase what happened? No, but that's why I think now when you talk about what is a pro-Palestine point of view, I think a reasonable thing to do would be to establish one state, equal rights from the river to the sea, which is what that means. I know that also is supposed to mean a lot of different things. It really doesn't. It means everyone from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River is treated equally. And you can call that Israel. You could call it Palestine. Whatever you call it now is really not important. But like, it's interesting because the fact that these words are meant to mean different things, it's what this is all an effort to make a very simple historical situation as complicated as possible so that as many people as possible just throw their hands up and say, well, it's complicated. We'll deal with it next time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess there's the part of it where it's like, yeah, war isn't always about, these kind of international games aren't always about morality. They're more about power and leverage and all that sort of stuff. So I always try to think of it as like, I always feel like whenever I'm like in my bed thinking about this stuff, I try to be like, okay, what if I was like CEO of both of these companies? Like, what deal could I come to? Like, I always try to figure out like how I would solve it.
How?
And then, well, and that's
I'll tell you how I do it.
You're like, so you go, what could you sell to the Israel people? Like, how would you sell them on that idea where you're like, okay, we're going to do this. And then everyone's like, no. And then they're like, okay, we'll just get rid of you. And we have a new government who does what we want to do. So it's like, I don't know.
I would hand Bibi to the Taliban first. Step one. Hand Bibi Netanyahu to the Taliban. Let him face Taliban justice. After that sacrifice, then you could talk turkey.
And Jimmy Dore show had its last broadcast on April 29th, 2024.
Oh, the easiest, the solution is the United States.
What do you think? Yeah.
The solution is easy. The United States stops funding them or threatens to stop funding them because they couldn't they couldn't do any of this without knowing that the United States and our military are in their back pocket. So if we weren't, they would have to be a good neighbor and they would have to stop because the Israel is the terrorists of the Middle East and just like the United States is the world's terrorists. And so if that happened, then they couldn't do any of this stuff and they would have to accept your offer. Put it that way. Now they don't have to accept any offer and they can do exactly what they want. And so if they didn't have the backing of the United States, which they shouldn't, and they talk about for 4, 6, 8 years now they've been talking about how Russia interfered in our election. The country that actually interferes in our election and brags about it openly is Israel. They put out press releases about how all their candidates win all their races, and everybody in the United States who's a politician shits their pants to think that they're going to get on the wrong side of AIPAC. AIPAC doesn't even have to register as a foreign agent. Also, look what's going on in Texas, right? So, and look what Mike Johnson just got revealed. He got tens of thousands of dollars from the Israel organization, Jewish organization, and look what he's doing. Same thing with the governor in Texas. So this is, I've been going on stage the last couple of weeks saying, welcome to the United States of Israel. And it gets a big laugh and a cheer. And that's exactly, I mean, it's so obvious now that the majority of people aren't for this, but just like they aren't for funding Ukraine. And so our government doesn't work for us. And the only thing that they have is still the same people who control our government still control our media. So a lot of people aren't woken up enough to the reality of that. Not woke, but woken up to what's really happening, that they live in an oligarchy. They don't live in a democracy. And you have assholes like that fuckface on that went up at the correspondence dinner last night and say, I'm voting for decency. Joe Biden is one of the most indecent human beings in the history of the fucking planet ever, right? And he's a warmonger. He's an enemy of the people. He's a racist. He's a sexist. He's been credibly accused of rape. There's not a worse person. He's been funding a genocide. He's draining our treasury right now to fund the slaughter of Ukrainians in an economic war, proxy war with Russia, which is backfiring. Everything they said Donald Trump was going to do, they're doing.
Oh, you forgot they're doing a Mariel boat lift of illegal immigrants, but
that's
on
right,
a 1 million person scale.
That's right.
It'd be just like Cuba.
They're literally they're flying in illegal immigrants into our country.
Scarface, get ready for the Scarface.
And they're doing it right in our faces. And so anyway, I don't know how I got off on that, but what do you make of that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean that I obviously this like split the Democrats and Republicans, where it's like half and half there and half and half there, and it's kind of like a big rift between like people that would be more populist or less populist. But I think it's hard to even like pretend that the majority of the people are for this. I don't even think you could really like pad stats to make that look like that's the case.
Last polling on Israel, support for Israel is down to 36% in terms of their military operations. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not even near 50-50.
Right. So, yeah, but if you have that situation, you're like, hey, no one wants this. And we're like, well, too bad. I mean, what's the even, of course, they're not representing the will of the people. I think that's just like a fact at that point.
Yeah, no, they passed those 3 war packages, Taiwan, Ukraine, Israel, plus the TikTok ban. We saw more bipartisan handshaking and smiling and backslapping. It was all of a sudden Democrats and Republicans were getting along again, just like it was after 9/11. And this is the first time since then where we've seen them be so complimentary across the aisle. I can't think of a time. Yeah, and it was to do things that nobody wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just saying on what you were saying. I had a funny news headline that I wanted to do where it's like Democrats, Republicans disagree on everything except for the wars. But it's like just like legitimately any time that there's they're just like the hyper aggressive disagreements on how many bathrooms do trans people get, but then it's they're just like could not be more chummy when it comes to this stuff.
They're
like
flying Ukrainian flags in their hand, like Fetterman waving his way. They all slow person flags.
Hey, come see us do a live show. We're going to be in Denver, Colorado, May 11th. Los Angeles, California, doing a live panel show with a celebrity panel and video. Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, Rutherford, New Jersey, with Max Blumenthal, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Ontario, California, Irvine, California, Chicago, Illinois, with another celebrity panel, live video show in Chicago, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.